All right, we are now live. Thank you guys for joining in. It is 6 o'clock. Craig's frozen. All right, we're good. It is 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock Eastern time over in God's country. That's where Mr. Craig Powers is. And Craig, welcome to Baitman Live.
Thank you, Kevin. It's a pleasure to be here, brother, and an honor. I really do appreciate you giving me a little time.
Well, man, so for those that don't know, I've known Craig, I don't know, since I've been like 14, working for Mr. Jeff Evans over there at Fisherman's headquarters in Draftonville, Kentucky. And
Yep.
He's always been a really good dude. He showed me a lot of stuff about topwater, showed me a lot of stuff about jig fishing, how to fish Kentucky Lake. And he's a legendary angler in my mind, not just because of how good he is, but what he does with baits. His casting is unreal. And always wanted to have him on stream. We may not have the best internet connection tonight, but we're going to try to make it work. And we got audio. So thank you guys for joining in. And if you got questions, be sure to ask them. But we're going to talk a little bit now about fall top water fishing with poppars and maybe poppars in general. And then we'll probably have Craig talk about some balsa baits as well. So, Craig, tell us why is that poppar, or what you call the CP70? Why is it such a good bait?
Well, first and foremost, a P70 popar is what I've always been known for. Okay.
Yep.
The one I make now, I just call it a CPR. And the only reason, and I'll go into why that. I'll go into why that bait I think is good after I tell everybody why I started making the silly thing. The problem with the Rebel P70, the old ones, all I ever used was a baby bass. And here's the reason why. It wasn't because of that baby bass color. That color has nothing to do with it, because after one day of fishing with a baby bass popar, there was no more paint on it, which was the beauty of the baby bass. If you put a baby bass popar, a blue and chrome popar, a black and chrome popar side by side, the black and chrome, the blue and chrome had a real thick coat of clear coat on it, which made the baits pretty, but it also made them heavy. The baby bass one has very little clear coat on it. Therefore, the paint would wear off really fast, but it also made the bait a little lighter, and for me, it just worked better. And when I say work better, I never did care about a popar doing the walk the dog thing. That didn't. If in my opinion, if you want a bait to walk the dog, a Zara Spook, the Strike King Sexy Dog, the Vixen, any of the cigar type baits are better at walking the dog than a popar, in my opinion. And the reason that the popar was so good for me, I say it still is a popar. If you will work it a lot slower, it'll almost stay in one spot. It'll almost turn around and kiss itself in the tail. What I mean by that, instead of it, doing a 90, it'll almost do a 180 and turn around. So if you throw enough slack in that line when you pop it, it'll stay in one spot. So when I went to Kentucky Lake, we always went there the first week of May, and the majority of the bass were in those buck bushes. Well, you could throw that, most people would throw that popar or topwater bait, whatever, by the bush and work it by it. Well, that wasn't the way I fished it. I would throw it every one of those buck bushes. At some point there would be a little hole, a little opening, or whatever, and I would throw it in that little opening, and one twitch, and it would just sit there. It would just turn around, and in my mind, I believe that those bass are laying there on those buck bushes trying to build a bed, or maybe on a bed, or just come off a bed. And the longer that popar would stay in their strike zone, the better a chance I had of making them react. Now, I've said this a million times, and a lot of people don't really understand it. that Pawpaw is the best sight fishing bait that I've ever used in my life. To this day, it still is. And here's the reason why. As long as you don't walk the dog and walk it out of their comfort zone, they'll let you know they're there. That doesn't mean you're going to catch them on that Pawpaw, but a bass is a lot easier to catch once you know where he's at. So
Right.
a lot of the fish that I've caught through my lifetime, won tournaments and this, that, and the other, I didn't necessarily catch them on that Pawpaw, but I found them, and I'd go back and either catch them on a weightless trick worm or a Cinco or pitching a creature bait or something like that. So that Pawpaw is it's a great sight fishing bait. It's a great search bait. So I hope that, I know I was a little lit in.
No, actually, that's probably some of the best info on a Pawpaw I've heard in a long time. Now, I was always under the impression a lot of guys seem to like the LP70s because they walk easier. But what you're talking about is what a lot of guys talk about is the rate of stall, and you kind of hear that in glide bait fishing, which we talked about before we got on stream. Is some of these glide baits, you can make them just sit with twitches of the rod, just slack in there. They'll go back and forth and barely move forward, and a lot of times that's just the key to getting a bait, into the strike zone and staying in the strike zone.
Yeah.
And,
that article that you're talking about, that rate of stall article, I promise you, when I read that article 15 times, and once I read that article, I took the glide baits that I had already had a reasonable amount of success with, and I took them to my shop. And I mean, this is how dumb I am. Okay, some of them glide baits. The first 30-acre glide shad I ever bought, this guy had 2 for sale. But the only way he'd sell them to me is I had to buy both of them, and he wanted $400 for both of them. So, like I told you before we came on the air, I've lost my mind. So, anyways, I bought them. And the first thing I did after reading that rate of style article, I took them to my shop, took the pin out, and drilled holes in them. Because they sank at a pretty good clip. So I drilled holes in them, and I put great stuff, the stuff you put around the windows to insulate it, which is, it's just foam. What it is. I put great stuff in those holes to make the bait more buoyant. Well, then after I put it back together, it no longer sank like a rock, but it floated, which was easy to fix because now all I got to add is a little bit of weight. But I've got my glide baits to where they suspend perfectly, so my rate of stall is top notch now, brother, because of that article. I'm glad you said that. And that P70, the rate of stall on it, if you leave it in the strike zone long enough, a bass. Okay. All right. I've told this story a million times, and I'm going to tell it right now.
That's fine. I am listening. I am also posting this on social, so you know the deal. But
okay.
I am 100% listening.
All right. If you and I went to Cracker Barrel 30 minutes ago, and we both ate till we were about to pop. We came home. I'm sitting on one seat. You're sitting on another. We're watching the Big Orange play football, and we're both in a good mood. We're fat. We're happy. We're full.
Yeah.
Well, there's a bowl of M&Ms between us on that end table. The first quarter, we both looked at those M&Ms, but we're fat and full, and we're happy. And the Big Orange is kicking Alabama tail, so all is good in our world. So we just let those M&Ms go. But by the second quarter, I've looked at those M&Ms till I can't stand it no more. So whether I'm hungry or not, I'm going to grab some M&Ms just because they're there. And a bass is the exact same way. They're opportunistic feeders. And everyone that's ever bass fished have caught bass that either has crawdad tentacles sticking out of their throat, or a shad tail sticking out of their throat, or a bluegill tail, or something that hasn't went all the way down in their gullet yet, which proves to you one thing. they're gluttons. They're opportunistic feeders. When that chance becomes available, they take it. So the longer you can leave that pawpaw in his face, I say pawpaw, a fat wobbler, any kind of bait that you can keep a glide bait, especially. The longer you can keep it in their face, the better chance you got of getting a reaction, in my opinion.
I don't disagree with that. I think it's 100%, and you see a lot of guys that are on that high level of angler have that same line of thinking as you do. You know, bass have small brains, but I got a big brain. But if you leave mashed potatoes and gravy in front of me long enough, I'm gonna eat them. It may be at 9 o'clock in the morning. It might be at 9 o'clock at night. If you leave it in front of me long enough, I'm going to eat it whether I'm hungry or not. There's a meal. I got to have it. So here's a really good question, Craig. This comes from South Jersey Fisherman. He's got an orange and white shirt on. Shout out there to South Jersey. He said, what's Craig's thoughts on larger cupped poppers like old school Clark chuggers? And where does he see those perform better than original smaller poppers?
That's a loaded question.
That is a loaded question. So let's put that in smaller terms. When are you going to use a great big oversized popper versus a smaller, more finesse popper?
And through the years,
oh, hope I hadn't lost Craig.
That made it so simple, very simple. The number one reason that I love a P70 pop, they are the per weight for me.
Oh, we got some connection issues here. Greg has disappeared. What is going on? Guys, let me know if you can hear me. I think somehow Craig has went out. No. Uh-oh. Let's see if we can go back. Swap screen. Craig, I don't know what's going on, but your audio has gotten muted, bud. Let's see here. Let me try this. Unmute mic. Got my little connection thing. Let's see. Trying to fix this. I don't know what's going on here. I'm sorry. Alright, I'm gonna have Craig, give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Alright, hold on. I don't think Craig can hear me. Alright. Let me text him real quick. Oh, Craig can hear me. Alright, so Craig, here's what I want you to do. If you'll hit that button that says leave studio and then try to come back into the studio, we'll see if that'll work. Alright. Hopefully we got that right. I'll text Craig. Guys, I apologize. If you understood where Craig lives in East Tennessee, internet's not exactly high-powered over there. So we were getting some juicy, juicy stuff. There he is. All right. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, dude, I could hear you. I could see you, everything. I'm not sure. It said, my screen said the host has muted your mic. I'm not sure why.
I did try that to see if maybe, I guess our internet connection's just low. So I apologize for those
I
guys
got
watching. It happens. I told them, well, where Craig lives in Tennessee, high-speed internet can be a little non-high speed. So, but
yeah.
anyway, as you were saying, a big popper versus a smaller finesse popper. When
Okay.
and why?
All right. The reason that I use that big popper over any other topwater bait is it is the perfect weight for me to accurately cast it in places that most people can't. Okay, and it's hard to explain that over the phone. Other than I can tell you this. Okay, as a kid, my dad and I fished together a lot, and he, him being my dad, he got his pick of the side of the boat. So he's right-handed, so he fished off the right side, and I fished off the left side. So I learned how to cast underhand, backhand. If that makes any sense. So what that means is when I cast that popper, it very seldom ever gets over a foot and a half off the water. So when it hits the water, there's minimal splash, very little splash, and I got pretty accurate through the years with my casting. I mean, Wesley Strader, everybody knows who Wesley is. He used to work for me at my dome. Yeah, you know Wesley. He used to work for me at my Domino's Pizza in Roane County, and he would bring his flipping stick to work, and I would bring my little popper rod, and we would have a casting contest into the change return slot on a Coke machine every day. We would do the lunch rush, and then from 1:30 to 4:30, nobody eats pizza, so we would stand in there and we'd cast hours, and that big P70 was the perfect weight for me to be able to accurately cast it in places that most people couldn't. Okay, so I hope that answers the big popper deal. Now here's the little popper. Right. I catch as many fish on a little popper in the course of a year as I do the big popper, and here's why. The big popper is a target bait. If I've got a hole in a dock or an overhanging tree, an undercut bank, and I need to hit a spot that's 6 inches, I always use that big popper. But I never leave the house without the little popper tied on.
Oh, dadgummit. Man, internet is not being kind to me tonight. I wonder. I have a feeling Craig's connection ain't just great. If you guys couldn't hear that, basically what Craig's saying is the weight on that P70. It's got the right weight and it helps him make really, really accurate cast. He's back. He's back again. You're back again. You may have to shuffle around the house. I don't know.
All right, you still there?
I'm still struggling here. As long as we can hear you good, people will play this thing back and they'll listen to it on their drive home or wherever. Oh, you actually muted yourself, Craig. He's going to be back in here. That was a really good question, South Jersey Fisherman. When he gets back, we're going to talk to him about his own CPR, his own popper. So I've had the pleasure of actually watching Craig cast, and I know, no offense to like Gerald Swindle and a few other guys, but dude, if you've seen CP cast, it's wild. All right, there we go. All right, I can hear you. God dang, got to mute mic again. Unmute mic. It says you muted your own mic here. There we go. I can hear you. Try not to freak out. I'm really good about freaking out here. Well, Kyle, I love Craig. I'm not sure Craig knows how to reset a modem, just FYI. Um, that's that's the issue. Sometimes we're gonna run in with anglers that aren't super tech savvy, but they know the juice. Cause they can tell you how to cast that P70, they ain't gonna be able to reset a modem. Cause I think he's on his phone. All right, can you hear me, Craig? I can kind of hear you.
I can't hear him.
You can't hear me? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? I can hear you, Craig. I'm good on my end. Let's make sure I ain't got my mic muted. Unmuted. Unmuted. All right, we're good. Can you hear me now, Craig? What in the world is going on? All right, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Gosh.
It's always something. It's all good here. I may have to go back and edit this, but I really don't want to because number one, I got a lot of things going on. Don't want to be lazy. But while we're waiting for Craig to get things figured out, let you guys know we're gonna have Matt Robertson on the stream Thursday night. Craig's popping in, so we'll have some good stuff here. All right, let's try Craig one more time here. All right, you on the porch now? I can hear things, Craig. Can you hear me? Testing, testing. Can you hear me, Craig? Golly, my damn kids must be on. No, my internet connection's good. What in the world's happened? Yeah, we may do that. Craig says no sound.
She walked out to get something for Pappy.
I can hear you.
Okay, what's wrong with you?
I don't know. This thing's not working. She's fine. I don't mind.
Okay, just hold on.
Hey, Kevin, I can see you, brother, but I cannot hear you.
I can hear you. Can you hear me now?
You want me to call on my phone or another phone?
Yeah, just call me on the cell phone and I'll put you right up here to the microphone. All right, when we have Craig just call in here. We'll go. All right, Craig, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm good now. I have no idea what's going on. It's probably my Wi-Fi or something.
Hey, man, it's okay. Trust me when I say you're not the first person or be the last person I ever have on a stream where we have issues. I've had some really good technical meltdowns on here, so I just hold my cell phone up here to the microphone, and I'll give you a little blank spot for your name. So now we got people saying they hear us both.
Okay, good.
I'll go full screen. That way I can show some of the baits. Tell us about the CPR, your version of the P70, and why you decided to make it.
Two reasons. The main reason is people were outrageous prices for P70s. I mean, it turned into a flipping game. People were just gouging people over them. It was just kind of silly. And they were getting harder and harder to get. Rebel come back out with the new version of the P70, and in my opinion, it's nothing even close to the old one. Doesn't set in the water the same. They look a lot alike, but they don't set in the water the same. They're a little bit lighter. I couldn't cast them nearly as good, so it just wasn't the same. So rather than me keep going the route I did, I've had people through the years, just a ton of people, how can I get a hold of P70? So rather than basically keep trying to sell Rebel baits, I figured I'd just build my own. And then
That way I knew before they went out the door, because the thing with the P70s, just like I told you a while ago, all P70s are not created equal.
Right.
And even all the baby bass ones I still had some duds. It's just the way it is when you come with a plastic bait. I say with any bait.
Yeah.
You have good ones, you have bad ones. So I decided in order for me to be able to look at someone in the face and say, here, buy this, I had to know for a fact it was what in my mind I thought was perfect. So it's taken me a long time, man. This has been a process, and I promise you, if I sold 10,000 of them, I still wouldn't get back to even on the money side of it, because I have threw away. God, it's embarrassing how many I threw away. But now I finally got them to what I think is perfect, and I could look my dad in the eye and say, this is as good as any P70 I've ever had, and that's just it. So that's pretty much where it came from, out of necessity more than anything.
Yeah, I try to explain that to people several times, especially newer fishermen. As good as the bait manufacturing process is these days, compared to 20 years ago, you buy a Strike King crankbait or Rapala, 1 in 5, maybe 1 in 10 was just right. Now it's a little bit better, but still, people say, well, why are you buying so many of the same bait? Well, they don't all run the same. They can all be manufactured to quality specs and this and that, but when you're working with plastic or even wood, stuff like that, there's going to be variances, whether it's in the lip or the bait itself. And taking your time and making sure you put the right one out or make a right one, those are hours you just don't get back. But
yeah, that's a fact. Hey, Kevin, while we're at it, let me finish that one fella's question.
Sure.
I got cut off right in the middle.
That's fine.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, so the big pawpaw is a target bait. If I need to throw it back in a dock, under overhang, that's what I use for target fishing. But if I'm going down a seawall, fishing a red clay point, fishing a straight up and down bluff, breaking fish, anything like that, anything that has to do with open water where I don't have to make that bait land in a 6-inch target, I put a spinning rod in my hand, and I put a little pawpaw in my hand, a P60, and like I said, I catch as many fish on that little pawpaw in a year as I do that big pawpaw. I never leave the house without one tied on a spinning rod, ever.
Interesting. So, when you throw that P60 on the spinning rod, are you throwing it on braid or are you throwing light mono?
8-pound test P line CXX, the worst line that's ever been made for a spinning reel in the history of fishing line. But I never leave the house without a can of Real Magic. The first thing I do is make a cast, spray some Real Magic on it, wind it in, spray some more Real Magic on it, and then it's fine.
Yeah, I remember.
The thing with P-line 8-pound test, you don't have to worry about it breaking.
Yeah, so, I remember, again, back when I worked for Jeff Evans, he was a big P-line guy, and it was super strong, but spinning rod, you almost had to, hook it up to the hitch on your truck and walk 100 yards and, pull tight and get the memory out, and then pull it back up.
It's terrible. But like I said, before I put a bait on, I never put a bait on that's, if you look at any tackle box in my boat, there's not a bait in there that has treble hooks on it. I put the hooks on it when I get ready to use it. That way I know for a fact I've got new hooks on. I've got the best line that in my mind that you can buy. I try to match my rod and my reel to whatever I'm fishing with, and then if something happens and that fish gets off, then that's the uncontrollables. You can't control that. But anything that you can control, I'm always trying to make it a point to. Look, Kevin, when I was fishing for a living, those guys were so much smarter than I was ever going to be. I mean, they understood things about fish that never entered my mind. So the only way I could make up for it was by not beating myself. So I made sure I had good hooks, good line, a good rod and a good reel, and hopefully that was enough. So
I think that's very important for people to understand it, and that's what sets you apart from a guy like me. You know, I always put my hooks on before. If I even change hooks, I'm really bad about getting one out of the package. And for the most part, hooks have gotten so much better in the last 10, 15 years, whether it's a flipping hook or a treble hook. But there's nothing like having, fresh hooks on your bait. But I think that separates the guys. I don't want to say wannabes because there's a lot of really good fishermen out there, but that separates the great anglers from that top tier anglers, being able to control the things you can control and not worry about the things you can't control. I've always said if a bass wants to get off, he's going to get off, but you can control tying a bad knot or having bad lines, stuff like that. So you're also a Balsa bait builder. You've got some Balsa flat sides. I've had several. Got several. They're fish catching machines. East Tennessee is kind of known for as the mecca of little flat side crankbaits. And talk about that a little bit. Who did you learn to actually make the flat sides under? I was told you were kind of an apprentice of Sonny McFarland.
Yep, absolutely. I've spent many an hour in Sonny McFarland's shop. He not only taught me how to build a bait, he taught me how to paint a bait. And when I say paint a bait, that's a broad statement. What I mean by that is he taught me how to paint 10 baits that looked exactly alike. He taught me how to be consistent. Anybody can paint. Painting's not hard. I mean, it's really not. If you've got the right stuff to paint with, painting's not hard. What is hard is being consistent. Sonny's motto was he wants plug number 1 to look exactly like plug number 100. And if he taught me anything, that's what he taught me that I'll never forget and will never be able to repay. Sonny knew things about making baits that it's priceless. He taught me so much I'll never forget it. I mean, I just never will.
Yeah, I don't expect for you giving me any super top secret stuff, but I think that's a good point there. I see a lot of really good custom painters. Back in my, late '90s, 2000s, it was Tim Hughes was really good. He was popular. I'm trying to. Now you got TK Stanley. He's good, and the guy owns 6 Cents, Casey Sobsack, amazing painter. But the custom painted scene wasn't near what it is today, and I do see a lot of guys trying to be a custom painter, but one of the flaws I've noticed is you get 5 baits and they may be the same color, but all 5 look a little different. Whereas some of the stuff you put out, I couldn't tell you if it was bait 1 or bait 500. They all look almost exactly the same.
That was my goal from day one, is to be consistent. And I sold a bunch of baits. Tackle Warehouse sold a ton of CP crankbaits, and I've never had. I mean, I've had people return them because they broke the bill out of them or whatever, but I've never had a single person fuss about buying a Fire Tiger bait in 1998 that didn't look like a Fire Tiger bait in 2020. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
That's a great compliment in itself.
Now, when you make your baits, is there a reason? I've always heard East Tennessee guys, they like that. They don't really like a true square bill. They like the thumbnail style bill. Is there a reason for that?
Well, I'm probably getting ready to make a lot of people mad or have a lot of people call me a liar or whatever, but when I lived in Roane County, right on Watts Bar Lake, I worked up there. I helped Sonny forever. There was a hotel in Harriman, the Holiday Inn, and I owned a Domino's Pizza at the time, so I give this lady free pizzas. In return, the hotel manager, I give her free pizzas anytime she wanted. In return, she let me use her swimming pool 24 hours a day, 12 months a year, and she had this little fella that worked there that was, great guy, but he kept that swimming pool spotless, even in January when it was cold as ice outside. So having that swimming pool, and man, I've always tinkered around with stuff. I've tore up more stuff than I've ever fixed. You know, the worst thing that ever happened to me in my life, and the best thing, was buying a Dremel tool. Once I got that Dremel tool, I could cut bills out of plugs, put new bills in, bill angles, this, that, the other thing. Okay, so here's back to your original question, the thumbnail versus a square bill. If you will look at a square bill bait, any of them, a 1.5 Strike King, a 1.5 Lucky Craft, a 2.5, 2.0, it don't really matter. If you'll look at them, look at the bill angle. The bill angle is so steep in a square bill that if you look at it coming through the water, the bill is at a down angle, but the tail of the bait is probably at higher than a 45-degree angle up from the lip. Okay, so the reason I'm telling you this is this. When a square bill runs into a stump, has absolutely nothing to do with that square bill deflecting. It's got to do the fact that square bill and the angle, that's the whole key. The angle of the bill has that plug with the hooks are away from whatever the bait is hitting. Okay, so the farther the hooks are away, common sense says, well, if the hooks are not hitting the stump, it's probably not going to get hung. You can take a thumbnail style bill, put it at the same angle as a square bill, and put the line tie out in the bill. That's a CP number 2 has thumbnail bait. And look, I'm not bragging on my baits.
Hey, brag all you want, buddy. I think a lot of people know how good they are.
Well, I don't want anybody to think I'm trying to sell a CP bait. I'm trying to explain to people what Sonny McFarland and the Holiday Inn swimming pool and a guy named James Knuckles helped me figure out. If you put that bill angle at the same angle as a square bill, put the line tie out in the bill, now you've got the same exact action as a square bill. You've got the same deflection ability as a square bill. The difference is, if you put that line tie out in that bill, now you can wind that plug 90 miles an hour. Whereas if you wind a square bill 90 miles an hour, it'll roll on you.
Yep, blow out.
It'll blow out every single time. That's the difference. So I did a TV show with a guy one time on Wheeler Lake. Have you ever been to Wheeler Lake?
It's been a long time. I heard it's really good right now.
Okay.
When I went, it was really terrible.
If you've been there, back in Elk Creek, you've seen all that wood that's out in the middle.
Oh yeah, tons of it.
Okay. All right. We did a TV show in there one day, and he had a square bill, 1.5 Lucky Craft, and I had a number 2 CP series. And we literally would do, he would make a cast to the tree, I'd make a cast to the tree. Same cast, same tree, to see which bait would get hung first. Now, a 1.5 didn't come through the wood any better than a CP number 2, and a CP number 2 didn't come through the wood any better than a 1.5. When a bait gets hung in a tree is when it comes horizontal to it. What I mean to that is like the letter T. If you pull up to a tree and you throw down a tree and you hit that thing from the side where your bill, if you'll make sure that the bill can do its job, it will do its job most of the time. Now sometimes they're still going to get hung because you're talking about treble hooks and wood.
Yep.
But if when you feel that bait coming up to that tree, if you will slow down and let that bill do its job, what I mean by that is slow down enough to where that bill can keep the tail of the bait pushed up in the air, and the bill will push right over that limb. 9 times out of 10, you'll come through that tree. And that doesn't matter if it's a square bill or a thumbnail bill. Now, we got to understand something, okay? It's all due to the bill angle.
Right.
Okay, because a shad rat, one of the greatest fish catching baits that's ever been made in the history of mankind, also has a bill on it with the line tie out in the bill. But the bill is very flat
to
the bait.
There's not much angle to that bill at all.
Not much angle at all. So what that means is, and anybody that's ever made a cast with a shad rap, if you throw 10 feet from a tree, a shad rap will figure out a way of getting over and getting hung every single time.
I've lost many of them. I know exactly what you're saying.
So it's not about the shape of the bill as much as it is the angle of the bill.
I got you. So that explains a lot, and that's really unreal information. Because I get that question a lot. People say, "Well, what's the difference between a thumbnail bill and a squirrel bill?" And my experience, Craig, and what I was always told too, is a lot of your baits that are based out of East Tennessee, they like the thumbnail because of that reason. But also, there's a lot of little rock, like on Douglas and Cherokee and stuff like that. That square bill, as good as it is deflecting and does great things, the way the rocks are angled over there, a lot of times that square bill tends to get hung up a little bit more than a thumbnail bill.
It will swim under the rocks. That's a fact, because we've got really sharp, ledgy rocks. And Kevin, listen, I started another thing too. We're talking about that thumbnail bill. Okay, one of the best fish catching baits that's ever been made in the history of mankind is an old Bagley's Killer B1.
Oh yeah.
With the thumbnail bill, with the line tie out in the bill. Okay, and you know as much as you've done this, you've talked to people. Kerr Lake, that part of Virginia, made the Killer B1 famous, and Fritz, David Wright, Smiley, Beck, all them guys, they're known for deep cranking, but those guys caught as many fish shallow as they did deep.
Mm-hmm.
You just never heard about it, and they, Kerr Lake, all those lakes up there have got nothing but wood covering them, and they were throwing that little Killer B1 in places that most other people were trying to throw a spinner bait.
Right.
So that little Killer B1 probably taught myself more about which bill and the angle as much as anything, because that thing's got a round bill in it, and it'll come through anything.
Yeah, so I got a question here too off of crankbaits. If you had one topwater lure to throw in shallow and deep zone, what's your best in your opinion? I think I know what you're going to say.
I mean, if I only had one topwater to throw year round, I guess that's kind of the question, right?
Yeah. Shallow or deep water. Deep water to me and you is different.
Yeah. I mean, it'd have to be a spook over a pop-art.
Really?
Honestly. Well, I mean, I can throw a spook just about anywhere I can a pop-art. The difference is, if I want to bomb a cast way out over a point, like on Hartwell over the standing trees,
mm-hmm.
or on Douglas over the long flat points, you can't beat a spook. I mean, you just can't.
Yeah, it's there's been so much money won on a spook that I'll be honest, it's hard. I know everyone talks about jackhammers, which has won a lot of money, bladed jigs, and soft swim baits. But if you go look at tournament results, especially in the fall and even late summer events when fish get keyed in on an early morning topwater bite, there's not many baits out there that's won as much money as a spook. And I'm talking from grassroots level all the way up to the top level of Bassmaster. There's something about a walking bait that it gets big bites.
It gets big bites. It gets a lot of bites.
Yeah.
I mean, it just gets a lot of bites. And, the more bites you can get this time of year, the better your chances of catching 5 good ones. That's just the way it is.
Absolutely. Here's a good question. I told you one of these questions might be coming. A guy named Gary, he's a great subscriber to the channel. He asks, what rod brand and what specs do you use for your popper and crankbaits?
Okay. On the big popper, I use a little 6-foot rod that a guy here local makes. It's a 6-foot long. When I first started throwing this big popper, first off, I'm old. Okay, when I was growing up, all we had was loose pistol grips. They were 5.5 foot long. That's how I learned to cast accurately. Okay, well, Lou's quit making the pistol grips, so I had to change plans. All right, Castaway made rods for me for a pretty good while. They made a 6-footer that was perfect. Well, when I quit fishing for a living, the castaway thing went away. So I got this guy local, Travis Shelley, that builds my rods now, and it's just a 6-foot rod, probably a medium light action. It's very limber. I mean, it's really limber, but that's what allows me to be accurate with it.
Mm-hmm.
As far as the crankbaits, this is going to blow people's mind because everybody wants to hear that it's some kind of special deal. The rod that I use for my crankbaits is made by Lew's. It's sold at every Walmart in the country, and it's called an Xfinity.
Really?
The retail, it's a 6'10" medium action. The retail price on the silly thing is $49.
You're gonna make me have to go to Walmart and buy one.
Well, now listen, this is a part that's really going to get you. Okay, the rod's one thing. You could get by with. There's a bunch of rods you can get by with. I used when I was fishing for a living. I used for my crankbaits a G Loomis 782. That's a 6.5 foot spinning rod, and they were perfect. But I can't look at a man who works 40 to 50 hours a week for a living and recommend him to buy a $300 G Loomis rod when I know for a fact that this $49 rod that I buy from Walmart is just as good. Now, it may not have as good a warranty on it. It may not have as good a guides, but for what I do with it, it's just as good. So it's a lot easier for me to look a man in the eye that works for a living and say, go to Walmart, buy this rod, you'll be fine.
You know what? I feel that really well. You know, CP, I work 45 to 60 hours a week, blue collar, swing shift guy. Yes, I have some nice rods and nice reels, but I always, you know, I do this YouTube thing and the bait stuff, and there's this huge misconception that if you don't have a $300, $400, $500, $600, $700 rod, that's no good. And I feel it. And dude, one of my best friends, Matt Robertson, is sponsored by Ugly Sticks. He's using a catfish rod to throw swim baits on. It's kind of taking people by storm when they hear guys like you and Matt and other people say, you don't need this high-end expensive stuff. All you got to do is find a rod that works for what you're doing, whether it's $20, $50, or $80. And I think that's an awesome deal that you can walk into Walmart and you can find a rod, this Lew's Xfinity, to go throw flat side crankbaits on.
Yeah, and please understand, Kevin. Look here, dude. If you've got the means, buy the best of what you can afford.
Yep.
I'm just talking about the everyday working man who you know, most bass fishermen have a family they're supporting. They don't have just money to throw around. If you can afford it, listen, spend as much as you can on them. All right, it's simple as that. But for the working man, that 49, I'll tell you what, I can promise you this: a bass don't have a clue how much your rod costs.
Absolutely not. Or how expensive your boat is, or if you got live scope on it, or any of that stuff.
That's right. Now let me listen to this part. This is what's going to really get to you. All right, the main thing to do with those homemades is the reel.
All right.
Okay. Now, when you look at spinning reels, every spinning reel that's made or sold in this country is either 6.2 to 1, 6.3 to 1, 7.1 to 1, whatever. They're really, really, really fast.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I am a dyed, true blue, 100% fan of Daiwa spinning reels. And here's the reason why. I know Shimano makes good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not knocking anything else. This is what I know for a fact. A Daiwa spinning reel does not twist line. It just don't. And like I told you before, I use P-line on my homemades. I use P-line on that little Topwater. P-line is the worst line that you could use on a spinning reel. And if I can fish all day long and not get one loop, or you know what I'm talking about,
yeah,
when that thing comes off there and the line goes everywhere,
Yeah,
When
I
that
do that
doesn't
quite a
happen,
bit.
exactly. I'm absolutely 100% a believer in that die with spinner reels does not twist your line, which line twist is what leads to those big loops and the things that make you cuss. You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
So now here's the problem with die with spinning reels. Everyone sold in the United States right now are high speed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so a 6 3-to-1 spinning reel is way takes in a lot more line than a 6 3-to-1 bait casting reel.
Yes, it does.
Okay, so the reels that I use for all my cranking is a Daiwa World Spin 2500. So what I said, Daiwa World Spin 17 2500 series. The 2500 is the size. You know what I mean? 1500, 2000, 25, whatever. The 2500 is the perfect size for the 8-pound P line. Now, this is what you're really going to like. The only way that I can get a hold of those reels is off of eBay. And how much do you think they retail for?
I would
It's
say
a
a Daiwa World Spin. I've heard of it before. I want to say in the $39 range.
$32.
Yep.
And they went up. They went up. When I first started buying them, they were $28. And I probably bought 10 of them when they were $28. So my entire outfit that I fish with that little pawpaw and all my homemades, but I say all my homemades, DT6s, DT8s, rock crawlers, 3XDs, any kind of a small crankbait I use on a spinning outfit that I've got less than $100 in.
That's awesome. Now I'm going to ask you this: why are you a spinning rod guy when it comes to those, crankbaits like that? Because see, I throw a lot of stuff on a Baitcaster, even rock crawlers, flat sides. I've got some, 610 medium lights to medium action, and I like to dive with the two SVs. I really feel like those cast those light baits a lot better than other bait casters. So,
Absolutely.
what's your reason to going the spinning route versus the Baitcaster route?
That's a great question. I'm glad you asked that. Because up here today in East Tennessee would have been a perfect day to go cranking. It was overcast and the wind blew 20 miles an hour.
The wind is your friend.
The wind is your friend, my man. That's a fact. Okay. Now, the wind is only your friend if you have, first off, you got to have a 36-volt trolling motor.
Yep.
All right. So, we got that. You got to have batteries that'll last. So, we got 2 lithium 36 volts on there, so we're good to go. So, now, we're not going to go out there. You and I are not going to go to South Ocean today, and we're not going to have the wind at our back 1 second. Here's the reason why. It has nothing to do with fish position their head into the wind, any of that. I don't buy into that. The only reason that I fish into the wind 99% of the time is if the wind's blowing you around, you've got no boat control at all.
That's
Zero.
true.
Okay, you're at the mercy of the wind. But if you're going into the wind, I have total boat control. What that means is I can position my boat as far up the bank or as close to the bank, my caster at the right angle. I don't have to worry about blowing by a point before I fish it good. And dude, I've known you a long time. And if Kevin Van Dam was sitting right here beside me, I'd look him right in the eyes and I'd tell him the exact same thing I'm going to tell you. If you and I go out here on this lake today, tomorrow, and that wind's blowing 15 to 20 and they're stomping the guts out of one of them crankbaits, if you're throwing a Baitcaster and I'm throwing a spinning rod, I'm going to catch more fish than you for one reason. Not because I'm a better angler, because I'm going to make more casts than you, because I will not get a single backlash in a day's time. And I guarantee you, Kevin Van Dam, Denny Broward, David Fritz, anybody on this earth that's throwing a Baitcaster with a little homemade into the wind, you're going to get backlashes. Simple as that.
I'll be honest with you. I've got a ton of backlashes. I'm thinking about getting a backlash while hearing you talk about this. So now you're making complete sense to me. And other than, someone else said on a spinning rod, sometimes you can feel better on those smaller cranks, and I do agree with that. But when you put it in like that term that you just did right there, that makes a lot of sense, and that's something that a lot of people do not think about. How much boat control, especially in the wind, makes a huge difference. So, dude, I'm so glad I asked that question. That's the best answer that I've ever heard. Other than just
now, I'm not done with that answer.
That's fine. I gotta go get my phone charger, but they can hear you. Go ahead.
Look here. The reason I use those Daiwa World Spin 17s in the 2500 series is they are 4.7 to 1 gear ratio. Okay, so why is that important? Because I've got guys, they'll go cranking with me and they're using them high-speed reels and this, that, and the other. With that Daiwa reel, when a fish swipes at my crankbait, I know it. Because it's just anybody that's ever fished with a nighttime big thumper Colorado blade, if you've got a slower gear ratio reel, you can feel it so much better. Just like a big plug. If you're throwing a big plug, you can feel that plug. It's a lot easier on you, one, but you can feel what that plug's doing with a slower retrieve ratio reel than you can a high retrieve ratio. Just simple as that. So that when I'm fishing at homemade, or I'm fishing a DT6, or I'm fishing a 3XD, I can feel when a fish swipes at it, I can feel it. Or if my bait's not running right, I can feel it. Just that 4.7 to 1 gear ratio means the world to me when I'm cranking. Now, another reason I use a spinning rod, and this is to me is as important as throwing into the wind thing. Number one, every spinning reel that I own has an anti-reverse button right under the spool.
Yep.
Okay. And the reason I say that is this: as soon as I feel one bite, I reach up there with my left hand and I flip that thing over to where I can wind backwards on. Because when a fish bites my bait, I very, very, very seldom ever use the drag. I backwind on it.
Really?
Every single time. And here's why. Okay? If that fish gets that back hook, and your natural reaction as a human being with red blood, you want to pull into them. You want to pull as hard as you can. Well, the first thing that fish is going to do, he's going to either go up toward the top to jump, he's going to turn left, he's going to turn right, he's going to go down. If you backwind on that fish, instead of that drag pulling like crazy against him, that plug can turn sideways, and either that front hook or that back hook is going to get him in the side of the head, the jaw, under the chin, somewhere. Instead of having one little bitty hook in it, now you've got two sets of trebles in it. And I with everything that's in my body, I believe backwinding is the way to go with a spinning rod.
Yeah. I know that Mark Menendez, just for me filming him and whatnot, he's a big believer in the backwinding. Like, he doesn't use the drag. And, well, it's on my YouTube channel. I caught a fish with him on a spinning rod, and it come up to jump, and I thought the drag was going to engage and started backwinding, and I freaked out. I was like, what do I do? And Mark said, backwind. By the time I realized that, it'd come off. And that's a part of fishing I haven't mastered, but I've talked to several guys that are really good with spinning rods, whether it's a shaky head, a tube, or a crankbait. They are a huge fan of backwinding. It's just a lot more control, and you can trust yourself a lot more than you can trust the drag.
Okay, now this is a CP lesson time right here.
All right.
Learn to backwind. Right here's how you learn to backwind. You don't learn to backwind when you got a big old bass on, or even a little old bass. The time you learn to backwind is when you're not fishing for bass. You go out there, you find you some carps, swim around on the top of the water, eating popcorn, whatever.
We got plenty of carp here on Kentucky Lake. That's a fact.
You're stacked on carps. Okay, you put your treble hook on, put your little 1/8 ounce weight up in front of it, snag one of them carps, and now for the next 30 minutes you can learn how to backwind.
I like it.
That's the best way to learn. Right there's the best way to learn. Hook a carp and learn to backwind. Because nothing pulls harder than a silly old carp. You know that.
Oh, man. Trust me, I pulled plenty in. Now, they don't pull too hard when you shoot them with a bow. I can tell you that.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
that makes a mess, though. That's too messy. I'm over that. I used to do it when I was a kid, but I'm over that.
Here's a good question since we're talking about this. Is from Josh Murphy. He says, I notice I can feel more on a spinning rod outfit cranking than on a bait cast outfit. Why is that? And I would agree that with the spinning rod, there is a little bit more sensitivity than with a bait casting.
Okay, here's why. Look at the way you hold a spinning rod versus the way you hold a bait casting rod. A bait casting rod, most of your hand is around the reel, whereas a spinning rod, your entire hand, all your fingers are wrapped around the rod handle instead of the reel.
Agree. Now it makes it, and also kind of, I've always said that's why, like if you're throwing a drop shot or a little shaky head, sometimes it seems more sensitive. And I realized that your hands covering more of the rod and less of the reel, and so you'll feel those vibrations transmit through the blank to your hand quicker and more of them versus when I throw a crankbait, a big crankbait or something, a big 6XD or whatever. You're really not you're feeling stuff come through the reel, and there's a delay in that too. So someone said on here, did you just win a USA Bass and Regional tournament?
I did.
Douglas
Lake last weekend.
Congratulations. So what all stuff are you fishing over there? And I know you went on a tear in the BFLs a few years ago. So you're just fishing kind of local stuff for the most part?
Yeah, I took a job with the TVA driving a barge up here on one of these lakes, and it's slowed my fishing way down. But I still fish locally. I mean, the USA Bass and the BFLs. There's a couple of little local trails up here I fish. A couple of these marinas put on little tournament trails. I say little tournament trails. I fished one this weekend. They give away a Vexus boat, so it's not like it's chicken feed or anything, but there's enough up here to keep me busy.
All right. I'll ask you this. We'll wrap it up here in just a minute. Where can a man get some CP baits? Do they still have any on Tackle Warehouse, or are you pretty much selling them on Facebook right now?
Yeah, just Facebook, Kevin. I mean, the Tackle Warehouse thing was a good thing for a long time, but when Richard Cobb started the Woodbait Nation thing, and then Norm Coulter got the Woodbait Universe thing going, the people across this country really started paying attention to the homemade scene, and it's more, I mean, dude, to be honest with you, it's just more lucrative for me to sell them through Facebook by myself than going through a middleman like Tackle Warehouse. I mean, honestly, that's just me not cutting any punches. That's just the way it is. I can make more money off the silly things.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that, and when you have a middleman, everybody's got to make some money. You got to make money. Tackle Warehouse has money, and then the consumer, sometimes they feel like they paid a little bit too much. And the good thing is, if you buy CP baits on Facebook, and I put in the chat, and go to Woodbait Nation and Woodbait Universe, and you'll see Craig on there. You can just send him a message. You're going to deal with Craig. So if you have any issue, Craig is going to help you. Very similar. I feel like you and Mike Buka from Bullshit are very similar guys. You are going to put legit baits out that catch fish, and you have no problem reaching out to a customer and helping them fix their bait, tune their bait, and helping them catch a fish.
That's it. And from day one, on the back of my package, I mean, this is the first thing that I wanted on there. If my crankbait doesn't make you a better bass fisherman, I don't care what it is, I'll buy it back. So it's a money back guarantee that can't be beat. If it doesn't make you better, brother, I'll buy it back every time.
Well, unfortunately, you won't be buying mine back because they definitely work.
You're a good man, Kevin.
Now your CPR, you actually showed me you got a new version of CPR coming. When are you going to have those available? Will you...
I mean, I'm sitting there looking at about 20 of them right now, and they're staring at me, wanting to go be fished around a little bit. So I can't build them as fast as I can, the crankbaits. It's way more time consuming, and I just periodically, Kevin, I don't want to say I'm gonna have them available this time and not be able to come through with it, because just like today, dude, I leave here at 15 after 6 a.m. and I got home at about, I walked in the door and clicked on the link at 15 to 7. So I work long days,
I-
so
Yep, I hear you, but I work 12-hour shifts as well.
yeah.
One last thing, and I'm gonna let you. You're a working man. I'm gonna let you hit the hay, hang out with your wife, girlfriend, whatever. Are you gonna be at that East Tennessee fishing show in January? You got plans to go up to that?
Yeah, I always go to it. I don't set up a booth there because man, this is gonna sound bad, man, but this is just me telling you the truth. I can make more money working than I can renting a booth and sitting there for 4 days. I mean, it's simple as that.
I totally get it. The guys ask me, man, why don't you do YouTube and all that full time? Dude, I can make more money. Go to my real job and make paint aluminum. I make a product called a Luca Bond. I can paint that stuff for 12 hours and make more than I can on YouTube in a month. So, and there's nothing wrong being a working man. I try to do videos when I can, and I do some extracurricular stuff, but I totally get it. I'm gonna try to go to the show this year, and if I do, we're gonna have to hook up. I might try to go early if you can take me fishing.
Sounds good, brother. I always go to it. I mean, I love to go down there, and I mean, I'm a tackle junkie, dude. I'm addicted to it more than I ever have been in my life. I mean, I work on my stuff every single day, one way or the other, but I always go to that show just to see the new stuff.
Well, we got a Bassmaster Classic in Knoxville, Tennessee. You got any predictions on how that's going to wind up? Do you think it's going to be a cranking deal?
Man, it's all due to the weather. And I can just tell you this. I love him. Looks like he's my brother. It's however Hot Defoe wants to catch. No, Hot's not in it. God, I forgot.
Yeah, he's fishing that other circuit. They don't have a... Yeah.
That's right. Well, then I'm going to have to be pulling for Jacob Prosnick or Kobe Creek. Simple as that.
Oh, Kobe, I got his number. I might text him. He won't even know who it is, and I'll tell him. So you can't believe who I got on YouTube tonight.
I guarantee he'll remember you, brother.
Every time I see Kobe, he always says, "You ever remember me and Craig coming in Jeff's store and buying a couple of hundred Odom's jigs?" I said, "Absolutely."
Every Odom's jig on the rack he bought that day. I'll never forget it. You took a picture of it. It hung on the wall down there forever.
Yeah. Kobe's a good dude. I like him. I like to see him have success, big time. Here, I got a couple of questions here. Do you ever throw any Cliff Pace's Black Label Balsa baits?
Absolutely. I got one right here. Let me see. In my hand right now, I've got a Tennessee Shad Black Label Fat Wobbler. Absolutely. Cliff makes a great bait. I've known Cliff for a lot of years.
Yeah, I would say as far as mass-produced balsa, he's probably doing his good job. Dude, the best.
The best. Absolutely.
I'm going to try to get Cliff on here one night as well. I appreciate everyone joining in. CP, I'm going to let you go. We'll do another one. I'm not worried about the video. As long as I can get you on a cell phone, people are going to listen. I've had a lot of great comments tonight. I think you really put some amazing information that's going to help people catch fish and learn, which is what I like to do on here. Of course, I sell some baits and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, I'm not trying to do a Walmart fishing challenge or crazy stuff to get clicks. I want the people that watch to get information that helps them make a decision on how to catch bass.
I hear you. That's me, brother.
But
you gotta leave something on this.
That's right. And last thing, go Big Orange.
Go Big Orange, baby.
That's
God,
right.
that made me happy.
Yes, it did. So, Craig, I'm going to hang up here, and I'm going to end my stream. And
all right, listen to me, son. I appreciate your time. It's a great compliment. You wanting to be on your show, and all you got to do ever till they put me in the dirt, brother. You give me a call, and I'll be happy to be here anytime.
Hey, I tell you what, I'm going to give you a ring this spring. We'll talk some spring cranking secrets. How about that?
Sounds like a plan.
All right. Thanks, CP. Have a good one. Holy smokes, guys, is Craig Powers.
They're standing
awesome
up there, four of them.
That's awesome.
Craig Powers, all of a sudden his audio started working too. But, dude, I hated to just go straight up cell phone. But, dude, it's not every day you get to talk to a guy like that. And it'd been cool if we had some visual stuff. But, dude, the things he was telling you about spinning rod versus baitcaster, when to use the big popper versus the small popper, the thumbnail bill, holy smokes, the angle of the bill, that's the juice. That's what I like to bring to the Baitman channel. And now when someone asks me a question and I give them that answer, people on here at the chat said that's a legit answer. I heard a guy from Craig Powers say that. Just makes things awesome. And to be honest, that's really nostalgic, man. He's such a good friend of mine and a great dude. And so it's kind of a pay it forward deal for me. That's why I do these streams and do videos, because I had guys like Craig and Kobe Krieger and Mark Menendez and tons of guys when I was young come into tackle shops and help me out. And someone once told me, I'm not always helping you out to benefit me or somebody else. I want you to catch fish. Also, when you're in an environment where you talk to customers, and guys, y'all aren't, some of you are customers, channel members, Sean Lai, all my channel members, y'all throw a few bones every month. But you want to educate your customers, because if customers feel comfortable of the information you give them, they're going to come back. So I always try not to put a bunch of junk out there, because I'm not in it for one click. Most of you guys are in every stream every week whenever I do it, and I want you guys always come back to get more good information. So anyway, thank you guys a lot for joining tonight. I'm fixing to get in and help my wife paint. We'll be back Thursday night. I believe we're going to do it 8 o'clock. I'm going to have Matt Robertson in here. We're going to talk spinner baits. Matt's got some good deep spinnerbait juice. We're going to talk glide baits. We're going to have a fun night Thursday night. So make sure you're right here on the channel. If you're looking for Craig Powers Baits, get on Facebook, Woodbait Nation, Woodbait Universe. You'll see Craig on there. Send him a message. He'll hook you up. And anyway, thanks again, guys. I'm going to jump off here. Go Big Orange. Y'all have a wonderful night.